to this presentation here this afternoon, and that's also going to have links to the recordings of our previous two webinars that came before today's presentation as well. So don't feel like you have to take copious notes. By all means, just look for that email when it comes through later on, and you can certainly distribute this to your staff. And finally, as we're going today, I encourage everyone to use the hashtag IntoFocus, or alternately, or use hashtag NPTech to share any interesting findings with the community from what you learned today, or let us know what you think. With that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's presentation. And today we are talking about engagement through video. This is really distributing video and learnings about distributing video based on the insights that we learned from the IntoFocus Benchmark Guide to Nonprofit Video. Before we talk a little bit more about that study and the learnings from the study and the contents of today's presentation, I just want to quickly mention C3 for those of you who are a little less familiar with us or joining this webinar series here in the third installment. C3 is a partner to organizations with a vision to do good things in the world. We're a full services marketing agency that works exclusively for nonprofits and causes. We create strategies and media that have impact in support of our clients' goals. And we firmly believe in measuring impact to inform and strengthening ongoing efforts through video and everything else, from web design and development to campaigns to advocacy to fundraising to awareness to recruitment, you name it. In the specific video space, C3 is sort of known as the leading provider of video strategy and services to the nonprofit community. We have been around since 2006, and we're an early adopter of video as a storytelling tool, as well as a tool to really bolster communications and augment larger communications initiatives. Along the lines of video, we work on strategy, creative production, and video distribution, the topic of today's webinar. Here's just a quick list of a couple of C3 clients. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into our presentation today. We are talking about video, and video is a big topic. Bear with me, those of you who've been on the previous installments of our series, but I think for those who are just now joining us, this is a set of numbers, and there are many more out there that are frankly just hard to get your head around, about the prevalence and the power and just the breadth and depth of online video. Every month, 4 billion hours of video are viewed on YouTube. That is staggering. Every year, more than 350 million videos are shared on Twitter. And right now, more than half of all broadband content is video, and that's on the rise. Cisco predicts that by 2016, I think it's 2016, 90% of all online broadband traffic is going to be video content, and that is just crazy to think about. If any of you remember just a handful of short years ago, when YouTube was brand new and not all that great, and video took forever to buffer and was just onerous and painful to use as a communications tool, those days are over. And right now, nonprofits that we work for every day are having huge impact in creating enormous breakthroughs using video and video media. And really, the reason that we moved forward and launched the IntoFocus Benchmark Survey and Guide on Nonprofit Video was to really get a sense of, okay, video is used, video is enormous in the cause space, but how are people using it, and what are the attitudes internally within a wide range of organizations on how to use video and measure video and its efficacy in communications. And so the IntoFocus campaign is really the first benchmark survey on the use and impact of nonprofit video. I just quickly want to talk about our methodology and bring some of you newcomers up to speed on the survey itself. Just a side note, if you haven't yet gotten the chance to download and review the study, we definitely encourage you to do that. You can go to c3.com/intofocus, all one word. and download that survey. And there's also some great tips and tricks on video creation and distribution and storytelling that you can get from that page as well. But the survey itself, we began at the beginning of this year, actually, and we interviewed over almost 500 participants from varying levels of title and portfolio within a number of different organizations, on down from senior management, executive director level folks to communications and communications director level folks, as well as development and fundraising folks as well. We tried to really get a sense of how video is viewed and used and utilized by different stakeholders within a wide cross section of organizations. And these organizations were representative of sizes. These represent a rich diversity of missions. As you can see here in our figure here, it comes from a wide range of different missions and areas of expertise, from animal rights and welfare to arts, culture, the humanities, education, environment, health, human services, which is kind of a large category, and a number of other organizations as well. And a broad range of experience with using video as well. That's an important thing to note, is that a lot of the folks that we talk to were novice video users, right on up to folks who have been using video in their day-to-day communications for years and years. And also, we used platform data from YouTube as a part of this study, which is very important. YouTube, as many of you know and many of you are participating in, YouTube has a nonprofit program wrapped up into the overall Google nonprofit program, which has allowed us to work with them to gain access to sort of aggregate data about how over 20,000 nonprofits in the U.S., UK, Canada, and Australia are using video from a sort of a deep metrics level, and that informed our work in this study as well. So that gets us back to what we learned, and the overwhelming conclusion that we can kind of summarize, boil down the report to, is that nonprofits all agree that video is crucial to their communications, definitely more so than it was even just a few short years ago, and it's definitely a place where more nonprofits want to do more with video and want to use video to engage their audiences. They want to make and distribute more video. But importantly, many, really a preponderance of the folks that we talk to, feel that they don't know how to use it effectively, and they don't know how to measure its impact yet. It's hard to source ROI to video and your efforts in video. People understand, that video is diffuse on the web, but in the nonprofit community, it seems from our study we learned that there's a real gap between understanding that video is an important tool to use and actually understanding on a day-to-day level how to measure its success, how to track its success, and really how to learn from that and improve one's video capacity. So today's webinar is going to focus on distribution fundamentals. Really, we're going to talk about the sort of basic art and science of actually pushing video out once you've created it, and hitting the right targets, making sure that people who need to see your stories get an opportunity to do so online. We're also going to talk about a sort of media model, transmedia or converged media, as a model for engagement through video, and a number of more sort of specific tactical executions for using video as well. I encourage those of you who didn't get a chance to sit in on our previous two webinars on video planning and video production to grab these links, and at the end of the presentation, when I have hands free, I will go ahead and post these links to the chat window as well. But if you haven't had a chance to bone up on the previous parts of the curriculum, I encourage you to go back and give them a watch. They're posted on YouTube. They're about an hour long and chock full of some information in the narrative that leads up to our final installment on distribution here today. So before I get into the nitty-gritty and the sort of the big takeaways from today's webinar, I want to sort of set the level and talk about measuring impact and how organizations are measuring video's impact that we learned from the study. And this is important because tracking any successful video engagement campaign or video-centric engagement campaign relies on understanding what metrics and measurement are two different things, understanding how you're going to track and really what information, what measurement cuts have value for you to inform your video work and understand whether or not your engagement through video is being received and is successful. From the study, it was very revealing. We realized it's amazing to see just how people are quantifying their impact through video and how they're decided to measure it internally within their different organizations. A large number of folks in the study only measured it anecdotally, which was interesting to us. Almost about 31% were basically just anecdotally understanding that could be from maybe feedback from their constituents they got out in the field or what have you. Clearly one of the most specific metrics, but yet one of those smaller percentages here in this pie chart was actually based on click-through rates and actions taken. A small number of people in the overall study relative to the rest were actually measuring the number of discrete actions that their viewers took sourced to their videos. Views obviously were a huge measurement and a huge metric for folks to measure their video's impact. C3 does not believe that views necessarily equal success, and we're going to talk about that here in a bit more detail later. But it's, I think, very revealing to note that almost 29% of folks considered views to be their sort of primary metric for impact. But I think the most interesting thing here is that the majority, 45%, really a majority by far, of the respondents didn't know. They didn't know how they were measuring video's impact. That might be because they were making a video because that was a directive from upstairs. Their executive director wanted them to make more video, and they understood that they felt intuitively that the audience was interested in more video, but they weren't measuring that in a numbers-based way. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Going back to any successful engagement campaigns, you have to be able to source views and understand what your largest source of views for your organization's videos are. I think it might come to no surprise to anybody on this call today that constituents, existing supporters, people who are getting your video through your website, your email, your non-social channels, etc., are by far the largest number of views for any one organization's videos. These are the folks who are being engaged on a day-to-day basis and an extremely important audience to be reaching with video. Search actually represented a small cut of the total feedback that we got. Social media sharing was also significant: Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, etc., as well as some other much smaller avenues, such as video embedded on, let's say, bloggers' websites or other websites, advertising, or simply about 15% of folks who just did not know where their views were coming from. One of the major questions that we asked on the survey was channels and understanding which channels are more important for video distribution. This broke down, as you can see here, pretty simply, and the story is clear. On nearly 68% felt that social media channels, like I said, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, etc., are their most important networks for actually distributing, for pushing out their video content. But non-social media channels made up the next biggest piece of that pie. That was obviously email, websites, sort of owned channels as opposed to others. And so I want to unpack the piece about the social channels here just a little bit. This graph actually is slightly tweaked, so as you can see here, the Twitter figure is off. But just looking through this data, it's pretty interesting to see that Facebook, Twitter actually came in above YouTube, or rather YouTube was also significant. But like Google+, Vimeo, Pinterest, and private social networks, things like Ning and the like, were actually rarely used relative to the others to distribute video. So you can think of sort of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as the big three in terms of social channels that organizations were using to push out their video. But we want to talk about other channels, and we're going to dig into this in a little bit more detail here in a minute. But I think it's important, just like I said, to set the level as we get into this idea of really what are the most valuable channels and the most used channels by organizations in the nonprofit space for distributing their video. And a huge number of organizations are not simply creating a video simply to put it on YouTube and to tweet it out and post it to Facebook, but it's going to dedicated pages on their websites. It's being featured in email and email series. In some cases, as HTML5 improves, it's even being embedded in actual emails. Some small number of organizations are actually getting their video content on TV or online TV, Hulu and the like, and then blogs, earned media, and other other basically earned media opportunities are where a decent number of video is ending up, as well as online advertising. And more we're seeing that to be a trend with a lot of nonprofits, especially those who use video in some sort of direct response manner, such as for a petition ask or an immediate fundraising ask. So if you've joined our last two webinars, you understand that we've really sort of very simply broken down what we as longtime video practitioners consider to be sort of the keys to success in any video campaign or video-centric initiative. And that starts with having a clear and measurable goal, understanding before you create video, not even before you distribute video, but before you sit down to think about budgeting and then scripting and then producing and then strategically distributing your video content, what your goal is, what action and what specific outcome you expect that video to drive, and how you're going to measure it, tying those objectives to tactics, and then tying each of those tactics to channels, and then tying those channels to numbers, to measurement and metrics. Obviously, you have to have engaging content. This is more of the art than the science in the video process, and you can't just expect results if you're distributing any video that you produce. It needs to be well thought through, and your content needs to be powerful. You need to tell authentic stories of people, and not just policy or sort of inside information at your organization. And finally, consistency. We've seen, and this is a piece of this really feeds into distribution. You need to think of your organization and your website and all of your different channels that you own or that you otherwise have some sort of leverage over, whether those be earned or paid. You need to think of consistency, being able to consistently be able to tell your stories and use these spaces to distribute video and engage people with video. As your constituents become used to getting more video from your organization, they're just that. They are used to getting more video from your organization, rather. And you need to consider, what is your strategy for continually pushing out more content and consistently good content. So again, just to sort of beat this dead horse, every video needs a clear, attainable goal, an understanding of just, what is the one thing, at least, that this video is going to do for our initiative, and how are we measuring that, and really understanding what success looks like before you actually sit down to concept and produce and then finally distribute. Our production team really likes to break this down kind of thusly. They're basically the 4 core questions before you really get into it. And ask yourself, why are you making video? What are you trying to say? They really recommend keeping it to one message and focusing on one specific theme, and then thinking about who is your audience. What is everyone or general audience, and these are all quotes we've heard from clients who I will not name, but these are how they've defined their audience in the past, and everyone is not an audience, or the general audience is not an audience. You need to think of specific behavioral and aspirational and even demographic factors. You need to understand who needs to see your message, and that's going to inform how you distribute your video on the back end of your video projects. And then finally, what do you want them to do? When they see your video, you have their attention. It doesn't end there. Don't fall into the awareness trap. Your video message is great, and if you're educating people on an important issue or breaking down a complex topic, great, and that's important, and your video can do that. But it also needs to drive them to take some further action, to engage with your organization or engage with each other or engage with the issue in some more meaningful way. And that way needs to be measurable. So generally for us, that includes click-through and signing a petition or sharing the video, or otherwise taking some sort of specific action that's important for the issue and important for your campaign. I like to start with a simple model for just thinking about how video works online, and this is incredibly simplistic. But bear with me. We think of it as a cycle. In any video campaign, you need to think about the mechanisms in your campaign and how they fit into the points of the cycle. In the beginning, however it's distributed, your viewer is going to see your video. They're going to watch your story. They're going to understand the importance of your issue and your organization's role in that issue, and then you're going to guide them with a CTA, a call to action, to take action on some online space, some place that lives online, whether that be a web page on your site or a microsite or even something on your social media channels. You can acknowledge that action back on that destination where you're taking them from your video, and then you can even make a secondary ask. Oftentimes that secondary ask after they've completed the action is to share the original video, to push that out to their own social network, and to push that out to the friends and peers that they have who they believe will be instrumental in glomming onto that issue and taking action themselves. If you walk away from this webinar with one thing today, it's just to keep this very basic model in mind as you're planning your distribution campaigns, thinking about resourcing for destination pages for your video to drive through, for instance, or specific conversion opportunities for your video to create, and then on the back end for follow-up asks and ways to actually get your video viewers to do more once they've actually taken a specific action. So getting into the specifics here, distribution and networking, we like to think that the old model of media distribution has changed. I mean, it's not our thinking, it's just true. It's changed beyond recognition. We once upon a time, you could really picture video distribution by brands or nonprofits or what have you as a sort of a hub and a spoke. At the middle of that wheel is the organization, and they are pushing video out really from their own channels out to the larger community and out to maybe different groups of constituents, different segments of stakeholders, what have you. But ultimately, they were at the center. They were at the center of the sort of editorial process and of the distribution process, and that's not the case anymore. And more, it is what we call a sort of transmedia approach to video distribution, and really on a larger level, a sort of converged and transmedia approach to storytelling, really. Edelman PR, which is our partner in the Into Focus study and the largest independent PR firm in the world, they think about content and conversation through a kind of prism of that transmedia storytelling that I talked about. They think of the media landscape as four leaves in a clover, as you see here in this visual. There's traditional media in your upper left, and this is broad reach. This is your sort of large scale sort of traditional publications and their online counterparts. But then those sort of bleed in more and more to hybrid media. These are websites. The Huffington Post, I think, is a great example of this, who are really social in nature and completely about sharing content. Not necessarily social networks in of themselves, but editorial hubs for shareable content. And they connect with social networks. And that bleeds into actual social networks. And these are the social networks that you and your organization own, and the social networks of your audience, of your constituents, and their larger social graph. And then finally is the assets that you own, your YouTube channel and your blog and your website, your own channels. But really at the center of that cloverleaf are search and video. The content that you own, that you have back on your website that you control, and can push out to all of these different points on the map. Effective strategies across all four leaves really include the use of compelling content, video, photo, infographics, for instance, as well as your traditional text stories. And then, of course, search tools and insights to ensure that story is discovered and gets the most possible shares. Impactful storytelling also requires that you synchronize, and this is important, how, when, and where a story is told in order to drive maximum conversation and participation. And so video represents a huge opportunity to tell that story in the most illustrative and compelling sort of way, and frankly, I think personally the most shareable possible way. In the ideal scenario, the work done boosts overall visibility and results beyond what's capable within an otherwise siloed communication strategy. So that means in an ideal video-centric campaign, you are distributing video across really in all of these different leaves on the clover. You are pitching this through earned media. You are also making sure that that goes to sort of hybrid media channels that have huge reach, but are also more well integrated with social sharing. You are using your own social networks and those of your constituents, of course, and you're using your own channels sort of as the basis. You are posting to YouTube. You are putting video on your website and your affiliate websites. One great takeaway from Edelman here is that while the media landscape has evolved, the needs of tastemakers and influencers and gatekeepers have evolved as well, and they're acutely aware of how your constituents act. And they're on the hunt for stories that are clickable and shareable. And for many of you in the quote-unquote room today, you're in a position to tell amazing and compelling stories about the people who are so intrinsically tied to your issue, and that's a huge asset. I just want to, before we kind of move on to some examples from the field, I want to talk about integrating video into larger comms strategies, though. This is what we're talking about here on this Cloverleaf slide. Any successful communications, fundraising, membership, advocacy campaign, it's multifaceted, and it involves a great deal of strategic planning. You're integrating different components. Generally speaking, we like to think that video doesn't just exist on its own. Video is not a campaign in and of itself. Video is bolstered by blog posts, text content, other visuals, other social media content, email series, etc., to really converge different channels around a particular story and around a particular issue. And video can bring that to life in a way that a lot of other media can't. It really does set up that emotional tone and takes people where they can't go, into the field, for example. So if you're an NGO working in Central America, you can actually take individuals to your work on the ground on a day-to-day basis. That exposes the value of your work. By distributing these videos with complementary content across these different points on the Clover, you stand the chance to really converge different channels around your story and get more out of your effort. But remember, it needs to be synchronized, and these things sort of need to happen at the same time in a way to actually drive critical mass. And so that involves planning. But beyond just planning, we need to think what actually makes people share video. I like this quote quite a bit from Michael O'Haney. He's the co-director of The Story of Stuff, which is a great series of videos done by, actually I think produced by our friends over at Free Range Studios. A terrific set of motion graphics, infographic style videos, really just about stuff, actually, how stuff actually is made, how it gets to you, what its impact on the environment is. Incredibly successful video series, very consistent, very interesting, shared widely, both through distribution and through search and just sort of serendipitous pickup by different influencers and tastemakers online. He's got this great quote here, though, where he says, "It's really, really difficult and challenging." That's distributing video, but it's not rocket science. It is, in essence, to build a network of shares, have really good, authentic content that people actually want to watch and share, because people build their own social capital for sharing something that other people think is cool content, right? So we have this network now of a couple 100,000 people who get social capital back from their communities by sharing the content that we provide them. That's interesting, and I think he really sort of hits the nail on the head here. It's about, in a way, content marketing. It's creating content that is interesting and powerful, and stories that are captivating for people. And that's not just necessarily your executive director sitting in front of or behind his desk talking about some line items from this year's annual report. You need to think about creating compelling stories and interesting narratives that are going to make people lean forward. And I think that's actually part and parcel with distributing good stories, is having good stories, things that are that are actually worth sharing and ultimately shareable in the first place. A great example of a sort of aggregator of content who does this, I think, very well is Upworthy. For those of you who haven't visited Upworthy or seen Upworthy on Facebook, and I would imagine that's very, very few of you here on the call today, we sort of consider them the masters of sharing. They break it down sort of in a nutshell as finding meaningful content that they think people should see, framing and improving the framing, put it on a site so people see it, and then promoting the cause or idea so that the world remembers that there are more important things to ponder than Honey Boo Boo. Honey Boo Boo was just a few short months ago, but in internet time it seems like it's forever ago. For instance, it's basically taking cause content and making it, giving it a sort of viral logic, giving it a sort of frame to people who care about these issues and are sort of plugged into these timely issues, giving them a way to actually consume the content and be moved by it, and then ultimately to share it. And it's an amazing sort of model that they use, and I think it's something that a lot of organizations can learn from. So I want to get into sort of one of the more specific big takeaways, and this is, again, comes from an insight from the Into Focus report. And this is about engaging the base. This is about really moving your existing supporters. And this, again, comes back from that insight that the largest source of views for nonprofit organizations' videos from the survey was from their own constituents, from their constituents who are actually seeing their video on their websites, in their emails, and in other ways. Here's a great takeaway and an important thing to consider. It's more effective to get your video to a small number, let's say 100 of your organization's most passionate supporters, than to actually attract 1,000 new viewers who have shown no interest in your mission before. It is, share of voice is hard. It is a complicated marketplace for minds and for people's passion. And by leveraging your existing supporters as a basis of any outreach campaign using video, you're definitely more likely to actually get them to leverage their own social networks and other sites to actually share your video with their friends and their friends on into the graph. They're more likely to view something that comes from somebody that they already know. And originally the sort of the point zero, your constituents who are actually sharing these things are more likely to share video that comes from a trusted organization who's engaging them with the best possible media in the first place. So think about it this way. What makes more sense? Sharing your video with those who've already demonstrated support, or forging into this vast online territory? And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. We'll talk about that a little bit later and sort of further, other distribution channels. But why focus your campaign, or at least limit your campaign to only wading into this large social media territory in hopes of attracting new viewers who haven't really demonstrated a connection to your mission before? And so a big insight is is basically to consider your base and what you're going to do with your base in the beginning of any video-centric outreach campaign. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to make video for your existing supporters, but you need to think about how you're actually going to push it to them and what you're going to ask them to do with it at the beginning of any campaign planning. So like I said, these existing supporters are your biggest asset. Give them shareable content. Again, think of the Upworthy example, and think of the videos on Upworthy that are there in the first place. They're there because they are shareable, and consider those videos and think about how they really tell a story, and about how they drive people to really pass it on and push out that message. How do they get people to sort of become ambassadors? Use maybe your lesser videos, and when I say lesser videos, I mean videos that might be produced on an iPhone, or videos that are shot quickly and sort of on the fly, and are not not incredible in nature, and they might not be the videos that you're building a campaign around by any means, but you can use them still as conversation starters. You don't have to make amazing video every time you make video, but you can distribute more video, and you can distribute video with consistency by just making simple more basic videos and actually pushing them out to your existing supporters more often so that they understand that you are a video channel and that you're telling story through video, and that video needs to be shared out with the world. Whenever you can, tie actions to goals. This means actually showing in your video piece, telling people explicitly that this video, and by virtue of them watching a video, they're being tasked with doing something. There's a goal that your organization is trying to meet, and this video is all about helping to meet that goal, whether that be petition sign-ons or $5 donations or other goals that you're trying to fit. It's just an insight that we've learned over the years that people are much more likely to actually take action if there's a specific goal in mind for them to help you deliver on. And that's going to make people feel like they can actually have specific impact sort of within time and space. And also think about engaging your base with video across sort of engagement lifecycle. You know, those of you who are fundraising professionals understand that fundraising has a life cycle. You know, you engage and you make an appeal to someone, and that's not where it ends. When a video that might engage someone to do something like, let's say, make a donation, a video can just as well also actually show them the stewardship and actually acknowledge their gift. Basically, you can show what you're doing with their money and also thank them for their original gift, and then prime them to take some future action. Think back to that sort of cycle that we were talking about. Video actually is a great way to engage your supporters even after they've taken an action. You can actually show them what you're doing in the field, and then you can actually transition them into do something else. So if you have folks in your email segment, for instance, who have participated in a previous campaign around capacity building in one of your NGO's target countries, you can use video as a way to show the success that you had in that initiative, and then actually migrate them into a new initiative, whether it's in that same country or in another one. That's just something for illustration, a total hypothetical. And then maybe most importantly, think about how you're going to weave video into your other comms. We know that video increases email open rates very significantly, in fact. It's more likely to be the content that gets shared on Facebook and other social media channels. Think about how you're using video across your platforms. Don't think just in terms of YouTube. Don't think just in terms of your website. Think also in terms of how this video is going to work into your other day-to-day communications. I want to highlight an example of an organization that we've always really found to be an incredible user of video, both socially and in other ways. This is Charity Water. For those of you who aren't aware of Charity Water, they're an organization that brings clean water and clean water projects to target countries, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa, and Charity Water makes a lot of video, and they really do a great job of actually posting that video and using that video in sort of interesting new ways. And in a lot of ways, you could think of it as an organization that has video sort of in its DNA. And this is just a snapshot. This is actually a random snapshot from just a couple of days ago, about some recent videos that they posted. You'll see a lot of video in their feeds, and you see a lot of great feedback on their video as well. Charity Water is an organization that has used video in the past to engage people at a number of different points in the cycle, like we talked about. Years ago, they had something called a thank you campaign, and I think they're doing it again this year, where they actually made videos to thank their supporters, not just make an appeal on the front end of the campaign, but to thank supporters for basically donating a birthday and fundraising on basically donating their birthday as a way to fundraise for the organization's clean water projects. And they had all of their staff basically just dropped everything for a day and recorded a couple hundred, I think, videos that were personalized just to thank individual donors, and that created a huge and incredible impression. And that's just one example of an organization really using video to engage their existing audience in an easy-to-distribute way, in a way that, frankly, I think is going to make to really cement those people's closeness to the organization for life. So I'm going to move on to actually the earned media piece of our distribution lesson here today, and talking about how to use video to engage influencers, whether they be bloggers or editorial leaders, or even sort of large popular press and popular press's online counterparts, to actually get your story out into their editorial and out in front of the world. We think of this as sort of earned media through storytelling. So again, video is the most effective way, oftentimes, to tell a story and to humanize an issue. We have seen great success in our initiatives and other organizations' work when they sort of wrap their pitch, their PR pitch, around the story within the video. Think about the way that someone on the editorial staff of, let's say, the Wall Street Journal or the Huffington Post is going to react to a pitch that has video and really incredible moving video that tells an incredibly moving story, and that pitch is really built around the video within that story. It's about the people, not necessarily the programs that is at the heart of an organization's mission. And that can be very compelling. And again, as nonprofit organizations, so often we have these incredible stories to tell, and if you can get them out on video, it becomes an incredible opportunity to distribute and to engage really large-scale editorial personalities who can actually get this into their own streams. We like to, just from a kind of to-do point of view, we like to always think about how video is going to be a central part of a press release, how video itself could actually be the press release. So there are sort of like things like DNRs or video news releases that are sort of made for like TV press, for instance. But we also use simple things like Newswire or Pitch Engine. Oftentimes when we're like Pitch Engine, for instance, is basically just a way to sort of create almost like a little microsite out of your press pitch, and we always, whenever we can, embed related video on those pieces when we reach out. We use video as a way to sort of hook and captivate the actual editorial gatekeepers, the decision makers, who are going to decide whether or not to feature your story on their blog or on their website. We found this to be especially effective for really compelling human interest stories of, like I said, no surprise, stories of people and people overcoming adversity and doing that within the theme of a larger issue. So, for instance, we've seen this around immigration reform, marriage equality, the women's right to choose, and a number of other situations where really the video that we helped a client produce was about people and how they've dealt with these sort of interesting and sort of timely issues that are sort of in the public zeitgeist. And we've seen those as the stories that really do get picked up and featured on a much more large scale with publications that have a lot of reach, both online and offline. So given that, I want to talk also a little bit more about paid video. I want to talk about really video as advertising, and that's another key piece. In the study, very few people we talked to actually utilized paid video distribution. Some did, and generally we didn't get a clear story in the report on what their experience was with it, but a lot of people use video as a way just to get a sort of guaranteed reach and oftentimes to target very specific audiences in their video efforts. I actually come from an advertising background. One of the ways C3 has helped our clients have success is through paid video campaigns and paid video distribution through channels like YouTube or content websites or behavioral targeting networks, and we'll talk a little bit more about what those are here in a minute. But I want to talk about sort of the paid video landscape for nonprofits, because time after time I talk to folks out in the field and they are hesitant. Nonprofit communicators are hesitant to use paid media in any way to push their video out because they just don't understand how to use it. They don't, they recognize that there's a barrier to entry, or at least there was until very recently, huge barriers to entry to getting your video on like paid video pre-roll on YouTube or something like that. There were minimums that you had to pay to these channels. There was huge investment without a guaranteed payoff. The solutions to actually distribute paid video were not scalable. They were incredibly hard to use. You generally had to work through third-party sales reps and things like that to get your video online or on TV or whatever. And that's not the case anymore. and it's still the case with some channels and some networks, but that's less and less the case these days. The marketplace for paid video has become much larger, much more open, and in a lot of ways much more DIY, much more do-it-yourself, which is great. I don't know who all on the call today manages a Google grant for their organization or uses Google AdWords, for instance. But that is a self-service tool. That is, for instance, a tool that allows people to post paid search or paid ads to drive traffic back to their web pages, fundraising initiatives, whatever. You can now distribute video using the AdWords interface and using YouTube, which is incredible. That's just one example of a new channel that's opened up that really opens up the reach of so many of these video channels like YouTube, Hulu, and the like to nonprofit organizations. And that means they have a flexible cost and conversion options. You can, in a lot of these new channels, you can pay just for views, you can pay for clicks, or you can pay for a completed action, depending on the channel and the vendor you're going through. Far, far more than ever, there are better, what we call three-screen opportunities, so video and video advertising that can be served to and optimized for mobile devices, tablets, as well as desktop computers. And like I said, the DIY do-it-yourself tools out there, they work, and they're oftentimes really incredible. So given that, I want to talk about what organizations can actually expect realistically through paid video, and then we're going to talk about a couple of distribution channels that I personally like and have seen some success with. Start off with what you can expect when you're thinking about running, let's say, a video ad campaign or paying for video views or video clicks or what have you. Is, let's say, pre-roll ads that run before content on video websites. So I'm sure you've all seen those videos that we see on YouTube, for instance, that let you click through after 5 seconds. It's a great example of sort of paid pre-roll video. You can expect through tactics like that, you can get guaranteed reach, and that's really what is generally the most appealing to a lot of organizations who use it. You can guarantee a certain amount of views and oftentimes a certain amount of clicks and actions depending on the pricing structure your vendor has. And this is important. If you need to reach a new audience, and you need to reach an audience that you do not have any sort of cachet with, any sort of inroads with for an initiative, consider paid media as an opportunity for that. Obviously, paid can go hand in hand with earned and known media as well, but if you are trying to reach totally new audiences, or you just need to guarantee a certain number of eyeballs on your video story, paid is a great way to just turn the key. You can oftentimes get incredibly precise targeting through paid video outreach. This is something that we have used for a number of campaigns where we're really just going after niche demographics, niche geographic targeting down to the zip code level in some cases, or just viewers in specific congressional districts. In the cases of some advocacy campaigns, just people in certain markets, cities, or what have you. This lets you get incredibly precise with a lot of online video channels. You can also target people behaviorally, and this is important. Behavioral targeting allows you to, for instance, you can do retargeting with video. So simply target video to people who have already visited only to people who have already visited your YouTube channel or your website in some cases. Or you can actually target people who are watching a Rihanna video but have watched a number of animal welfare or animal-related videos in the past. So you can actually track people based on their video viewing behavior on a number of these networks to actually get a sense of people who are likely supporters of your issue or have some reasonable reason to be involved with your issue and close to your issue, but you can actually target them using video that runs on top of content that might have nothing to do with your video to create a certain user experience and a disruptive video viewing experience that actually gets them to remember your issue and take action on behalf of your organization. And then finally, content and contextual targeting, and this is just like it sounds. This lets you target around specific videos. So I was picking on YouTube, for instance, with AdWords for video or the YouTube TrueView platform, which I'll talk about in a second. You can actually target specific videos. If I want to run my nonprofit's video in front of Keyboard Cat, I can bid on Keyboard Cat and own Keyboard Cat, and my video can can be all over that one piece of content. Or more broadly, and really more realistically, I could target a certain context of videos that might actually relate to my brand and my organization's work. So if I was, let's say, an organization that was working on behalf of nature, or to conserve nature, or to preserve green space, I could run in front of sort of nature videos on a lot of networks, or I could run in front of sort of outdoors content and things of a similar context and a similar interest to what my organization does. So like I said, paid video will guarantee you some turnkey action at the very top of the funnel, the sort of awareness level. These are generally going to be targeted to people who have no idea who your organization is often, and because of that, don't expect to see huge proportional conversions. You know, on average, banner ads online get something like, I think, a 1% click-through rate. Video does a little bit better, but you would be surprised. You're really going to be in the neighborhood of 1 to 3% most likely, people who actually click through from watching your videos. Now, here at C3, we've seen some slightly better outcomes in some paid video campaigns because the targeting was very specific and because we were able to optimize video distribution over time. But generally, for your first time out using some sort of do-it-yourself paid video tool, you're likely to see not that many people actually clicking through. So be aware that it's really just a matter of the total number of people that you reach, and that only a small subset are actually going to take the action that you're asking them to take, hopefully, with your video. So I just want to show you guys an example of a couple of channels that are great for what I would call sort of novice video users, and people who want to distribute their video via paid media on sort of in a simple way that is scalable and measurable and allows you to take advantage of all of the content that's on, let's say, Google or YouTube and other content networks. This is TrueView video ads. If you guys watch a lot of YouTube video, and statistics don't lie, most of you do, you've seen these before. These are basically the video ads that will show up before YouTube content based on what you've searched for, based on the context of that video. And these are accessible through Google AdWords, actually. The suite of ad products that are available are called TrueView. That's sort of interchangeable with Google's AdWords for video, and you can actually run these through almost the same interfaces you might be running through, let's say, a Google grant. Important thing to note, these are not available, so you cannot roll up video ads right now into a Google grant if your organization is taking advantage of Google grants. But I would say that this is an incredible way to really compete with big brands and big and frankly other larger nonprofits out there, because I mean YouTube gets TV-sized numbers. It has incredible viewership. You can target people who you reasonably believe are your key targets very, very effectively and very easy, and generally speaking, you can do it on the cheap. Most of the campaigns that we have run, we've ended up seeing something like a 10 to 11 cent cost per view using YouTube TrueView, which is very competitive and I think very, very good. YouTube, just importantly to note, only charges you for completed views. When you're using YouTube TrueView, or rather AdWords for video, you only pay for people who completed your video to a certain, I believe it's 50% completion of your video. So if they skip that ad, if they push that button right after that first 5 seconds, you're not charged for that view. You are, in fact, only charged for people who've watched most or all of your video content. You're actually not charged for clicks or even impressions. So keep that in mind. That's the sort of cost structure for YouTube TrueView. It lets you target video search terms and keywords on YouTube. It lets you target specific contexts of content on YouTube, and it also lets you target even specific videos. I was talking about Keyboard Cat earlier. This is a way that you could actually do that. It also lets you target sort of interest groups based on nonprofits and activism, politics, news, everything from men's and women's interests, demographics, the location down to the zip code level. And there's lots and lots of other really great targeting options here. there's probably a whole webinar's worth of things we can talk about just relating to this channel, and we hope we can present that sometime in the future. But I'm going to go ahead and move on. And if you guys have questions about YouTube TrueView, it's sort of the specialty of mine, so I'm happy to answer those in the question period coming up here in a minute. Another maybe more robust platform that I would consider under the paid structure is Brightroll. Rather Brightroll Exchange, which is Brightroll's bid-based, do-it-yourself ad interface. This is similar to YouTube. You can upload a video, and you can actually distribute that on ad networks. So this video would show up on various channels where people go to watch online video, and that's not just on YouTube. It's basically there are millions of different content websites that are in Brightroll's network. Brightroll can actually get your video basically distributed into 98% of websites in the U.S. that feature video content. So again, this is a great place to target strictly to specific websites and specific contexts based on all sorts of targeting structures. There are too many of them to actually get into today. You can also target specific devices, tablets, mobile, etc. If you're just trying to get people to view your video on every possible device, this is a great opportunity to do so. Again, you only pay for video based on completed views in as much or as little as you want to spend. So like YouTube TrueView, you can set a budget and basically bid on your video, your paid video based on that budget, which is terrific, and it lets you scale it up and down in real time. There are no contracts. You're not locked into a long-term spend. You can turn it off if it's not working, and those are I think very attractive options for a number of nonprofit folks out there. And then finally, just kind of going back to the earned piece and the syndication piece, I wanted to talk about a tool that I sort of love and have used all the time in the past to boost search and, frankly, just to get your video out onto sites that's not just YouTube, and in some cases onto other video viewing sites that you would want to see as well, such as uploading your video to Hulu or a number of other sort of niche sites out there, as well as sort of larger video sites like MetaCafe, Brightcove, Dailymotion, Vimeo, Blip TV, for instance, and not just YouTube. It's a free tool called OneLoad. You can just Google that, and you can actually visit their website. They have a free option as well as an enterprise and paid option. They also allow a syndication tool that lets you post to your different websites if you're an organization that, let's say, has a network of affiliate websites all over the country. You can actually upload your video once to all of those as well. But basically what OneLoad, as its name would imply, lets you do is upload your video to one central backend with a dashboard and a set of metrics all its own, and then it will actually push your video out to all of these different video channels simultaneously, which is a great time saver, and it's also a way to just with one load actually get your video onto all of the different video channels out there that are not just YouTube. Again, YouTube is just simply the biggest video site and video-based social network there is out there. But to make sure that you are covering all of your bases and putting your video in as many different channels as possible, and in a way where you're going to drive up your search a little bit incrementally by having more of these, by having your video on more channels. OneLoad is a great opportunity, and at its most basic, it is free, which is terrific. Finally, just a last thought for today. I want to talk about YouTube and YouTube's nonprofit program. One of the major things that we learned in our survey was that while there are 20,348 as of February 2013 active nonprofits, the different nonprofits, 501c3 orgs who are eligible to participate in the YouTube nonprofit program and are participating in the nonprofit program, that's just a drop in the bucket compared to the million or so nonprofits incorporated in the United States. And what we see this as an indicator that the program is really underutilized. And I think that's important, and I kind of want to talk about why. For one thing, right now nonprofits have received, just nonprofits in the program have received upward of 6 billion views on YouTube alone, which is huge, and I think that's really heartening for those of us who are really doing so much with video. That's a great number. 588,000 of those, I'm sorry, 588 only organizations in the program have over 1 million views, which is fantastic. Just shy of 2,000 nonprofits are using the donate button, which is a feature within the nonprofit program, and I think 72 nonprofits in the program have live streamed an event. Those are all heartening numbers, but they should be higher, and they should be higher in the community by far, because the nonprofit program allows organizations who qualify, so 501c3s who are incorporated in, I believe, the U.S., Canada, the UK, and Australia, and I think possibly New Zealand, although I've heard they're rolling out the YouTube program to countries in Europe as well, and hopefully more than that in the future. It allows organizations to get more out of a YouTube channel. You can create, for instance, clickable annotations, embedded links within your video that will take people off of YouTube. That's something that YouTube only usually gives to brands who pay them thousands and thousands of dollars. You can actually create a clickable link within your video that takes your viewer to a campaign page, or an action site, or a donation page, or a petition, whatever your imagination and your needs of the day dictate. You can create clickable overlays that remind people that you're trying to get to a certain number of views. Again, that goes back to tying back to a goal. You can create like that donate button on the site. You can actually live stream using your YouTube channel, which is terrific for those organizations who sort of need to bring what they're doing on a specific day or time to a larger audience out there. These are all great free tools that are available to organizations who participated. So if you're not already a member of the program, visit youtube.com/nonprofits as soon as you can, and please consider enrolling in this great free program, which like we said, has room for lots more worthy nonprofits to start using it more and more. Before we jump into Q&A, I just want to talk about some of the other resources that have come out of our Into Focus study. Again, if you have not yet downloaded the report, definitely just grab that at c3.com/intofocus. While you're there, consider visiting c3.com/insights for a pretty comprehensive list of video tips and tricks that we've created naturally on little videos themselves. And these are great sort of reference guides to have. Some of these are about using different features in the YouTube nonprofit program. So going back to what I just talked about, these are just great tips and tricks for any sized organization to use. And then for ideas about cause video and to see what other organizations are doing out in the field, I encourage you all to visit thedailydogoodr.com if you haven't already done so. And it's really a repository. It's a curated library of some of the best and brightest cause video from the past several years. And this is a great way just to see what other organizations are doing based on their mission or their or the purpose of their video initiatives or what have you. And it's a great place to just get some ideas from other folks in the field who are doing a good job with video. And of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I just didn't remind everyone that C3 can help your organizations have a lot more impact through video. We have obviously a large number of services around video, including simple things like content and capabilities audit, consulting on sort of how your organization uses video and how it can have more impact through video, workshops and trainings on video and visual storytelling. Of course, we are a full services production and creative agency, so if you are interested in outsourcing your video efforts to an agency like ours, by all means, get in touch. And then, of course, video distribution, more of the stuff that we talked about today. And with any interest in any of those things, please just contact info@c3.com or just give me a call. So that said, I'm going to take just a second here before I open up to questions. If you guys don't mind sitting tight for a minute, I'm just going to go ahead and open up the questions pane and sort of review our various questions from today. And I'm going to try to answer these in the order that we got them. During that time, by all means, if you have questions about what we talked here today, please by all means post those to the chat window, and I'll get to them as fast as I can. Have a great question here from Shannon about whether or not U.S. nonprofits are eligible to be part of the nonprofit program. I think I might have mentioned that earlier, Shannon, but yes, by all means, U.S. nonprofits are eligible. There are some strings attached. I believe your organization can't be strictly religious in nature or lobby in certain ways, and you do have to be a 501c3 organization. All of that is covered in the rules on YouTube.com/nonprofits. So I encourage you to visit that and check it out. And I've got a question about YouTube Preview. And this question is from Andre, and Andre asks, you mentioned geographical targeting on YouTube TrueView. How granular can you get with your targeting? We're an organization that would be interested in focusing videos to specific congressional districts. Great question. Absolutely. If you have the list of zip codes that make up those districts, you can basically put those together. I think AdWords actually currently offers set congressional districts that you can pick as targeting, but you can also model specific districts or even key zip codes within those districts to target your video to. I believe zip codes are the most specific geographical targeting you can get within YouTube TrueView, but that is a very, very narrow geographical targeting option, and we definitely encourage you guys to take advantage of it. My next question is about email and email as it relates to video. The question is, how do you see video increasing the engagement with email from any given organization? We send a lot of emails to our constituents just about our day-to-day operations, but in the past have not seen significant lift in click-through or other engagement from our videos and emails. That's a great question, and I'm positive that varies from organization to organization and really the makeup of your audience. I would say that email is still the #1 way organizations are going to stay digitally connected to their constituencies. Social media might be sort of slowly superseding email's role in communications, but for the most part, email is not going away for any of the people on this call, certainly. And I would say consider ways to really build your email content or even your email series around your video. If you have the option and if your email service provider lets you do this, there are actually great ways using HTML5 to actually embed videos within email. This is becoming more and more of a technology within reach for a lot of folks, and is actually different email service providers sort of evolve on this. That's going to be more and more of an option for all of us to use, and I hope to great extent. Mention the fact that there's video content in your email subject lines. Mention make the actual contents of the email very short and sweet and about the fact that there's a video and not really the text of the email. The text needs to be in service of getting people to watch the video and maybe to share it or to follow through and go to the ultimate conversion page that you're driving back to. And then finally, I would just consider, experimenting with different things, segmenting and A/B testing your audience, sending with and without video, just to see if it's the themes of your video or it's just the presence of video themselves that are creating any sort of difference in click-through rates or overall engagement with your email list. All right, guys, so we are a little bit over our time today. It's actually 2:10 Central Time, so thanks everyone for bearing with me and hanging in there with us today. Like I said, we will be posting the links to this and our previous webinars via email and online. I encourage you guys to let us know via info@c3.com if you have any additional questions about video distribution. And for those of you who've joined all 3 of our learning webinars in this series, thanks again for the extra time with us, and we look forward to seeing the great video you guys produce in the future. All right, everyone. Thanks again. Take care.